is Sadiq Khan having an Andy Burnham curve, not quite as drastic, obviously. I've always thought, actually, that Sadiq Khan is a little bit more progressive, right? Obviously, I disagree with all of the kind of stuff that he said about Jeremy Corbyn, but he's been pretty forthright in the things that he's believed. He was being pretty even-handed on the Israel-Palestine conflict from the very beginning. He's been very, very measured about this kind of stuff. He's been progressive on social policy within the capital, on trying to maintain community cohesion, explicitly speaking out about the things that Donald Trump did in a way that plenty of our politicians failed to do. You know, whilst Theresa May was holding hands with Donald Trump, Sadiq Khan was being very statesmanlike in responding to Trump supporters creating a balloon of him to try and trump the Trump baby balloon. So I think he's been a very kind of measured person, and I think his policies are pretty good. Obviously, you know, we get good public transport in London continually, and he's been very good at managing that. He has been building a lot of council houses in London. You know how I bring out this statistic around the 3 years of Boris Johnson creating more council houses than 10 years of Blair? This is almost solely due to the fact that there has been expansion of council house building in London because they have the budget, right? Just in the same way that Sadiq Khan, another one of his good policies, is the budget that he set aside to get us free school meals. So, we got free school meals for all primary school kids in the entirety of London, thanks to Sadiq Khan, and he is going against what we have from Labour on high, the Starmer Politburo, who have ruled out free school meals in favour of breakfast clubs because it looks less left-wing. I have no idea. I can't imagine it's that much less expensive to have breakfast clubs rather than just rolling out free school meals for everybody, right? It must be because they think that it's somehow optically better for it to be a breakfast club and not a free school meal. I have no idea what's going on there, but even so, Sadiq Khan has outperformed the McSweeney Politburo in terms of things like free school meals and on the things like calling for a cessation of hostilities in the Israel-Palestine conflict. And I can only applaud him for all of those things, right? I can only applaud him for it. He's been far more pro-LGBTQ in terms of kind of outward rhetoric that he engages in. And I think there's really another important thing to point out here. So this news broke today, and it's really important news, linking into a point I made earlier, which is that Sadiq Khan has launched a major new program to convert private housing into council homes, with an aim for 10,000 additional council homes in the next decade, just from conversions alone. So that doesn't include any additional money that gets given by the state, which won't happen because of Rachel Reeves' hands on the purse strings. But even so, right, he's going to be taking some of London's budget and not even using it for new council homes, but specifically using it to convert existing private housing into new council homes, right? So he is not only beating the Starmer leadership in terms of foreign policy, he's also beating them in terms of social policy and rhetoric and things like that. And he's also beating them in terms of housing policy and transport policy too. So, you know, as much as I have my misgivings of the kind of tensions there were between the Corbyn leadership and Sadiq Khan, I really do think that he is somebody who does have his heart in the right place, and he will give us some good policy, right? And I think that's why I believe that, really and truly, now that it's first past the post in the London mayoral election, I think the left should just bite the bullet and support him. If there is somebody there who is willing, in a very powerful position, he's probably the second most powerful Labour politician in the country, outside of Keir Starmer, given how much of a remit that he has, being the mayor of a gigantic financial centre, and using the revenue that he gains as mayor to do good things. I think it's worth supporting him because we can't have somebody like Susan Hall in charge, and that's why I think that we should. I don't want to have a fight between Jeremy Corbyn running against Sadiq Khan. I think Jeremy should stay in Islington North. I think he's good as an MP, and he's always good for his constituency. I would always tell people to back Sadiq Khan in the mayoral election because it's clear that he has a record for doing good things. So this follows the success of his flagship Right to Buy Back programme, which saw over 1,200 homes brought into council ownership, The new programme will help councils deal with the ballooning temporary accommodation crisis and contribute to an ambitious new goal of purchasing at least 10,000 extra City Hall funded council homes over the next 10 years. Now, that doesn't seem like a huge amount, that's 1,000 per year. But when you think about the fact that we've only had 1,000 per year being built as new, that's almost double what we were getting before, and that's on top of any expansion on potential social housing budgets we might get in future. And I think we should be pressing people like Sadiq Khan and the London Assembly to be putting even more of this excess business rates into the construction of things like new council housing, because we need more housing, we need cheaper housing, we need less of it in the private sector, more of it in the social sector. Any movement to which that we can drive prices down by forcing landlords to compete with the public sector, that can only be a good thing. The housing crisis is literally the worst problem that we have in this country. Outside of the climate crisis, the housing crisis has to get fixed now. And just like the segment I did yesterday, which I uploaded today, which was talking about confiscating properties away from rogue landlords, because again, they have a captive audience, a captive market, so they don't need to adhere to any actual rules. Whereas actually the democracy of having an elected government, an elected governing body, managing council housing is far more easy to scrutinize than a bunch of rogue, profligate private landlords with a captive market whose only consideration is how much money that they can make, and not indeed the social utility of actually providing housing to people, which is what houses are for, their actual use value, and not indeed their exchange value. So, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has launched a new programme to continue the city's council housing revolution as part of a new ambition to see boroughs buy 10,000 new homes over the next decade. The Mayor's innovative new council homes acquisition programme, CHAP, will give councils access to funds to purchase homes from the private market, responding to Londoners' urgent need for social housing and temporary accommodation. Because that's the thing, is that if the government doesn't compulsorily purchase a bunch of these homes on the private market, right, in the current mortgage crisis that we're seeing, fewer and fewer people are actually buying houses with mortgages. Mortgages are way more expensive because of the rise in the base rate. So the priority is being given in terms of who buys those houses on the market to people buying in cash. That is mostly going to be two people, serial landlords who are just as profligate as the rest of the landlord class, and we need to ensure that they get undermined as much as possible. Or it is indeed private equity firms who are using it as an investment vehicle, or Russian oligarchs or Saudi businessmen using it as an investment vehicle, buying up empty property because it's all prime real estate in the London area, and using it as a continual rising investment vehicle continually over and over and over again, which we've seen from the London property market for the best part of a decade at this point, where property has just become a commodity. And then the absence of people affording mortgages to buy these properties, and given the fact that they're going to be bought with cash otherwise, the state is the only person who can compete. The only entity that can compete with oligarchs and Saudi businessmen and private equity firms and serial landlords buying these new or private market houses with cash is the state buying them with cash. The Joe Blogs can't compete with that. Joe Blogs can't compete with that at all. And so the only way that we can force the market to not get entirely enveloped into the hands of incredibly unscrupulous private equity owners or private landlords, like serial private landlords if they're buying in cash in London, no less, is to have the state as the bulwark, right? Unless you control the supply collectively, which the state is the mechanism that you can do that, and have the power of the state to override the rest of the private market, it's just going to continually funnel upwards, which is what we've seen in the housing sector for the entirety of the last 40 years. Things like right to buy, the over-marketisation of our housing sector, the movement from the social to the private, has led to a conglomeration of that housing wealth in fewer and fewer and fewer hands over time. We have had the birth of companies like BlackRock and Vanguard trying to create a company town neo-feudal society where private equity and pension funds are the people who own our housing and we have to pay rent to them. Incredibly dystopian. And the state is the bulwark for that. And so if Sadiq Khan is coming out here and saying, no, I'm going to get in there first. I'm going to use the state's money to buy that at a reasonable price. And then that means there's council properties available for everybody to be able to use at cost rather than at sky-high market rates. First of all, allows there to be more social ownership in the first place, which I'm obviously in favour of. But second of all, it drives rents down because now private sector is competing with the social sector. So really and truly, this is the ideal policy that everywhere should be adopting in future. All London boroughs will be able to bid for funding for the new programme. All homes funded through CHAP must comply with a decent home standard and meet strict building safety standards. Homes will also need to be within the borough's boundaries to ensure residents can stay rooted in their local communities. Local authorities will be able to purchase a wide range of homes from the private market, including former council houses lost by right to buy, which over the past 4 decades has driven down London's overall number of council homes. CHAP is one of the key mechanisms that the Mayor is championing to help increase the supply of council housing across London, following initiatives such as the Mayor's Right to Buy Back scheme and the landmark £1 billion Building Council Homes for Londoners grant funding programme and his 10 million home building capacity fund. So he has the record to show for it in terms of previous policy, both building and buying back council homes, and on top of this new plan to just enter the private market with huge amounts of cash to be able to beat the capitalists. And, I think that given what we've seen from London mayoral candidates, and that are nowhere near as good as Sadiq Khan in terms of these kind of policies, and the kind of power that's been afforded to other mayoral candidates elsewhere. You look at the Steve Rotherhams, you look at the Andy Burnhams of this world, who are far more progressive and happy to call out from their privileged position the central Starmer leadership, so much so that they get briefed against. Andy Burnham keeps getting briefed against from the Starmer leadership. Sadiq Khan became an entire briefing against machine when he became the fall guy for Labour getting their comms wrong in Uxbridge and then using ULEZ as the singular blame for why they lost, because they didn't realise that maybe they could lose that seat. So after Sadiq Khan outshone the Labour leadership by looking too metropolitan, looking too left-wing, looking too much like he does things that people want, the Starmer Politburo had to then brief against him. And so if our vote for him is kicking back what Starmer wants to do against him, then quite frankly, I'm all for it, and I think it's worth doing so. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description, and if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.